Good morning and welcome back to day 43 of 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens. On our last video, you were to analyze this poem, a sentence or two for each line, and I showed you exactly how I wanted you to do that. So hopefully you were able to do so. Just to jog your memory, because it is about diversity and we are starting to discuss diversity today, I want to read the poem to you one more time. The Cold Within. 6 humans trapped by happenstance in bleak and bitter cold. Each one possessed a stick of wood, or so the stories told. Their dying fire in need of logs, the first man held his back. For of the faces round the fire he noticed one was black. The next man looking across the way saw one not of his church, and couldn't bring himself to give the fire his stick of birch. The third one sat in tattered clothes. He gave his coat a hitch. Why should his log be put to use to warm the idle rich? The rich man just sat back and thought of the wealth he had in store, and how to keep what he had earned from the lazy, shiftless poor. The black man's face bespoke revenge as the fire passed from sight, for all he saw in his stick of wood was a chance to spite the white. The last man of this forlorn group did not except for gain, giving only to those who gave was how he played the game. Their logs held tight in death's still hand was proof of human sin. They didn't die from the cold without, they died from the cold within. Okay, so sticking up for diversity. Fortunately, the world is full of people who are warm within and who value diversity. The following story by Bill Sanders is a wonderful example of sticking up for diversity and showing courage. But first off, I just want to go back and touch on this particular poem. You guys were supposed to do your analysis, so I'm not going to go through and break it down stanza by stanza and analyze. What I am going to do is tell you that because these people were stubborn in their ways and had certain prejudices in their unconscious mind or conscious mind, they chose to withhold the wood from the fire, and this caused each one of them to die. It's really simple to think, well, I'm just going to lay down my stick here. But if you were sitting at a fire and it was freezing cold and you had a stick of wood and I had a stick of wood and you were my mortal enemy or you had caused me extreme pain, my pride could possibly get in the way of me sharing my stick of wood. And if I'm not going to do it first and you're not going to do it first, then we're both going to die, which is what happened here in this poem. These people were too prideful to just realize that if one of them gave in, everyone would live. But because there was one person there for each person that they didn't agree with or like or had an issue with for whatever reason, they held back their wood, everyone suffered, and everyone died. And folks, it doesn't have to be like that. It does not have to be like that. If we can sit our pride aside and just realize this is for the betterment of everyone and quit thinking, excuse me, with excuse me, hatred and hurt in our heart, then things would be so much easier in some circumstances. Okay, so our story about sticking up for diversity. A couple of years ago, I witnessed courage that ran chills up and down my spine. At a high school assembly, I had spoken about picking on people and how each of us has the ability to stand up for people instead of putting them down. Afterwards, we had a time when anyone could come out of the bleachers and speak into the microphone. Students could say thank you to someone who had helped them, and some people came up and did just that. A girl thanked some friends who had helped her through family troubles. A boy spoke of some people who had supported him during an emotionally difficult time. Then a senior girl stood up. She stepped over to the microphone, pointed to the sophomore section, and challenged her whole school. Let's stop picking on that boy. Sure, he's different from us, but we are in this thing together. On the inside, he's no different from us and needs our acceptance, love, compassion, and approval. He needs a friend. Why do we continually brutalize him and put him down? I'm challenging this entire school to lighten up on him and give him a chance. All the time she shared, I had my back to the section where that boy sat, and I had no idea who he was, but obviously the school knew. I felt almost afraid to look at his section, thinking the boy must be red in the face, wanting to crawl under his seat and hide from the world. But as I glanced back, I saw a boy smiling from ear to ear. His whole body bounced up and down, and he raised one fist in the air. His body language said, thank you, keep telling them. You saved my life today. If you've ever been bullied yourself and you know how it feels, it's a terrible thing no one should ever have to go through. So watch out for those courageous moments when you can stop the bullying of another person right in its tracks, whether live or online. Okay, so now I want you to think about a time that either you've been bullied or someone around you has been bullied. And in your workbook, do the worksheets that go with these pages. But then I also want you to write a paragraph about the time you were bullied and or you helped someone who was being bullied. Okay? So if you were bullied, write about the circumstance, what happened, and did anyone help you? And how could it have been different if they hadn't helped you? Okay. If you're writing about someone being bullied who you helped, then what were they being bullied for? And how did you help? And why did you help? Okay. So, one of those two things. That's your homework for tonight. I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. We'll pick up tomorrow. Have a good one. Toodle doo.